Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rangers Respite. I'm Philip, and today is Wednesday, and that means it is time for whiskey library review. I'm out of practice. I've had 2 weeks off, unintentionally, both times, believe it or not. Finally have a new camera, new interface, and I've got some whiskey to talk about. In case you haven't noticed, I've got a tracking camera. It sees my face and follows my face, and sometimes it's not exactly perfect. But anyway, what we're looking at today is a special release from Old House Distillery or Winery Brewery Distillery in Culpeper, Virginia. This is a 10-year-old double oaked straight corn whiskey. Now, first things first, there are very few details on here. You know what? Before I get into that, though, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what I'm doing, if you'd like to support this channel as well as the 2026 Virginia Whiskey Tournament, you can find links down below to an Etsy shop where I sell these pens, hand turned from barrel staves. These particular pens were turned from Quercus Robert French oak, from a barrel that held cognac for 45 years before being used to finish a peated American single malt whiskey in the Pacific Northwest. I can't tell you which one, but you'll have to guess. Now, back to this. Now, what I know about this is limited. I wasn't present when this was purchased. It was purchased as a gift to me. I know that it is double oak straight corn whiskey. I know that it is 10 years old. I know that it is bottled at 48% alcohol by volume or 96 proof. It says bottled by Old House Vineyards, Culpeper, Virginia, USA. I don't know if they distilled it. If they have a still on site, I know that they produce whiskey, rum, and gin, and a vodka. They are listed as a distillery within the Commonwealth of Virginia. I don't know what kind of barrels this was in. I don't know, how long initial aging was before it was put into the second set of barrels. The details that I have are very few, and their website is not terribly descriptive. Currently, the only whiskey they have listed on their website is a whiskey 4. And obviously, this is not that. I know that they make a cask strength bourbon, and that's about all I know. So my assumption is that this is above the 81% or 80% corn threshold to be corn whiskey. Aged in an ex-bourbon barrel would be my guess. And then finished in another fresh ex-bourbon barrel. Now, let's get some of the glass and taste it. First of all, let's look at that color. Nice coppery color. In contrast with my horribly pale, bright white forehead. On the nose, there's a note in here that is somewhat reminiscent of some cheap butterscotch whiskey that I have tried a couple of times. Just that, like, real sweet butterscotch note. A little bit of, like, sharp ethanolness to it. And a little bit of something that is, to me, reminiscent of like a vodka. It's got this, like, sort of sweet and also sour alcohol note that, like, I frequently pull from relatively inexpensive vodkas, which makes me wonder if this was potentially originally destined to be vodka and then was put into barrels and aged to be corn whiskey, which I'm not sure about the, like, possibility of that, but it's a thought that occurs to me. And there's, like, a little bit of, like, like bell pepper, a little bit of like fresh cut vegetables, and a little bit of like sweet lily floral note. On the palate, it is a totally different story. On the palate, it leads with a sharp spike of barrel tannin, followed by vanilla, caramel, and a note that's sort of along the lines of a a toffee wafer, like you got like a little bit of biscuit and then like toffee over top and then cocoa, like high cocoa content chocolate over top. There's something like that in there. The the nose worried me. Like, I'm not going to lie. The nose is not the strongest feature of this whiskey. The palate really sort of comes out of nowhere with a lot more complexity than I expected based on the nose. It is clear that this has spent some time in X barrels. I think X bourbon barrels, and I would hazard a guess to say high rye content bourbon barrels, because there's just the hint of pepperiness and aniseed in there, but not enough to really to be a rye, if you know what I mean. But there's plenty of like sweet caramel, some like cocoa-y notes, some vanilla, and a little bit of like that Caro corn syrup note. The finish is interesting. The finish leans more heavily into those caramel notes and that vanilla. It is not too long. It doesn't linger as long as I might like, but it is a fairly welcome, appreciated continuation of the palate. There's a little bit of like barrel bitter around the edges and towards the end, but that's sort of normal for a whiskey that is spending 10 years in oak, whether it's new or used, at least in this climate. Now, it is a little bit spiky for the proof. And I will say that I think that has more to do with oak influence than anything else. I think that the sharpness comes from being that old. I know that this is one of 500 bottles filled. It was released just ahead of Father's Day, which means that I'm a little bit late on my review, but not too late. And it's a really interesting whiskey. I'd like to try more from them because this is different and interesting. And if I'm being totally honest, I'm not really sure how I feel. So I will do my usual 3 questions, 3 answers. First question being, do I like it? Um yeah, I think I like it. I will say I wish the nose was a little bit nicer and I wish the finish was a little bit longer. And I think that it is it is in need of some more like bass notes in the palate. But otherwise, I think it's a fairly good whiskey. I enjoy drinking it. Value I cannot answer for because again, this is a gift from my mother. Um, I can't tell you, you know, and this is a subjective thing. For some people, an $80 bottle of whiskey, they have very high expectations. I do. I certainly do. But also, this was gifted to me. I did not pay for it. This is no money out of my pocket. So I can't say that it's a good value or a bad value because I didn't spend my money on it. I can't feel cheated. The third and final question is, do I recommend it? I'd say it's certainly interesting. If you are a fan of bourbon, or if you are a mellow corn fan and you're looking for something that is sort of in that vein, but a little bit different, I think that this is very interesting spirit to try. It has some very interesting characteristics that are very different. And I think that with a little bit more time, opening up in the glass, it'll probably deepen and give me some more interesting notes. But that's what I have so far. As always, there is still time to vote in the 2026 Virginia Whiskey Tournament. We are on bouts 9 and 10, I believe. Some great distilleries in these bouts. On Friday, I have a different review for you. It'll be a Lost Lantern product that's a recent release. Um, and then Saturday, because we're going to be running until midnight Saturday on this on these two bouts, because I wasted my Monday doing, you know, getting a new camera, getting a new interface. I am sorry about that. It is what it is. Because we're going to be running polls until midnight on Saturday instead of midnight on Friday. Saturday, I'm going to do another Lost Lantern Saturday video. And it's been a little while since I've done one of those. But until Friday, stay happy, stay geeks. Happy 4th of July if you choose not to watch my Friday video. And until next time, stay happy, stay geeks. Sláinte.